I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit, for political purposes, my opponent's youth and inexperience.
I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody.
We have great fans. I want to thank them for being here. So it's a great night for Nebraska.
The Nebraska Democratic Party is not going to have a sort of, burning bush moment where everything gets turned around in one election. That doesn't happen.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We are back on Point Counterpoint Omaha. It is the 16th day of May, and we had a 50-minute show there where we talked a lot about the top headlines going on around the country. If you've never listened to this program, it's real easy. It's both sides, Democratic and Republican, getting together and having conversations, and we don't call each other names, and we don't use names like stupid, and we just don't do that. We have something here that unfortunately is a rarity in this country right now, and that's both sides getting along and talking about the issues at hand. Every once in a while, there's an issue that comes to the table that I'm not aware of, and so and one is that today. And I would like you, Dorsey, to start out by explaining, you wanted to talk about the immigration of white South Africans and what that's doing right now in the United States.
Right. So I'm a member of a lot of different groups that don't necessarily agree with the way that I think, because I want to know what other people in the country are thinking, right? And there's this big thing going on right now that I can ascertain, and it may not be as big as I think it is, but there's a lot of chatter behind it about Trump being a racist and trying to further the white population in this country by allowing white South Africans refuge to immigrate into the United States. And he is doing that because he wants more white people in the country.
That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. So I became intrigued on that. And I've got a couple of friends who I have met via living part-time in Puerto Vallarta who are actually from South Africa. And one of them used to work for Nelson Mandela. And they're Caucasian, they're white. And I called him and I said, you need to tell me about this because I'm hearing a lot of noise over here and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And when Mandela passed, there was a great split in the organization of people who wanted to continue his message of peace and the other people who wanted to basically burn anything that was Caucasian to the ground. And one of my friends actually, when Winnie was gone and she wasn't in the public eye anymore, that faction actually started taking over politics in South Africa. And they basically have made it illegal to be white in South Africa. They consider it, oppressed. And, to their point, the apartheid thing was, beyond bad. So now they're kind of figuring that they have a right to that stuff from those folks. And my friend actually owned companies and homes in South Africa. And people would come to his house, knock on the door, push him out of his home, and squat in his home. He ended up having to bulldoze his houses to get them out because the law would not make them move because they were black and he was white. And they also have a policy where if you are Caucasian, you're not allowed to take any of your earnings out of the country. So if you sold a business and it's in a bank account, it has to stay in South Africa. You can't take it out. So now what they're doing is they are killing white farmers and taking the land back. And the people that we are talking about at this particular point in time is 52 or 58 people. They have been vetted. they do have refugee status anywhere in the world, right? So they're not coming over illegally. They're not going through borders. They're very happy to be here. They're not, trying to bring their flag over and change our government over to theirs. And they're very grateful. And so, the last time I checked, the United States was supposed to be the country that people could get away from or come into when their governments were trying to kill them off. And so I just wanted to put that out there because I know there's a lot of noise behind that. And I personally have the experience and the exposure and the eyewitnesses to say that what is being presented over here is incorrect.
All right, Dennis, you have a comment on this?
I would just say I would welcome them to the United States so long as we're fair to other refugees and immigrants from other part of the world. The right to asylum in America is extremely important. And I think if we're fair to all immigrants, including South Africans, Hispanics, I'm okay with it.
Larry.
Absolutely okay with it. It's the color of their skin appears to be the issue here, and
Yes.
that's racism to the max. Again, I just can't get with that. Now, of course, there are a lot of people from one particular party who will remain nameless that are still all over Elon Musk because he was South African.
Yes.
And of course, they hate him, telling him to go back to where he's from. And we've heard that in the past, and it was repulsive. It was ugly. But all of a sudden, because these people happen to be white in skin tone, they're evil. And I don't buy that. I can't buy that. It's wrong. The sins of their fathers are not theirs to bear.
All right. Here's our last topic for the day, and I'm very interested in hearing all of your opinions on this because I think that there are different opinions and there are different. Unfortunately, I think there are also some people who think this is a fact but won't look down the road to say, well, then that has to make this a fact. And what I'm talking about is, and this is not being critical of President Biden. I am not in any way, shape, or form trying to be critical of President Biden. President Biden has not been well for some time.
Correct.
And there were a lot of people that knew about it. And most of those people were in the Democratic Party. And yet they treated a lot of Americans, including those on the right and in the middle, as if we had stupid written on our forehead. And I know that's an old saying, but it is something that irks me when somebody just assumes that I'm stupid and I'm going to listen to what they have to say. There are a lot of books, there are a lot of interviews that are now coming out, which says that President Biden really from day one did not have the mental capacity to make decisions that a president of the United States should have had. And that's not his fault. His party put him up there to run, and then when they realized that he wasn't capable of, no, back up. When they realized we, in the middle or to the right, realized he wasn't capable of running this country anymore, that's when everything started to change. And quite frankly, I think this is a real dark spot in American history. That we've had a president, we had a president for 4 years that didn't have the mental capacity to run this country, and none of his supporters spoke up about it and told us about it. So with that being said, I'm going to let Dennis have a little time here to agree or disagree or whatever you're thinking about this, Dennis.
Well, he did not lack the mental capacity for the entire 4 years of his term. That's just not accurate. He negotiated a pretty comprehensive budget deal with Kevin McCarthy, the then speaker, in the summer of 2023, and McCarthy said during the negotiations that Biden was on top of his game. He was smart, tough, and professional. So as late as the summer of 2023, Biden was good to go and ready to go.
According
I'd
to
also
one person.
Well, Kevin McCarthy was the Speaker of the House at the time, pretty substantial person. Other House Republicans at the time thought the budget deal was unfavorable to the Republicans, and they alleged that that Biden took him to the cleaner. So it wasn't just Kevin McCarthy. I mean, the Speaker of the House is a big deal, but there are other House Republicans that said that Biden took him to the cleaners, and this is in the summer of 2023. And two, a number of people that were quoted in the book as saying Biden was not fit have come out and said that they were inaccurately quoted and that their quotes were inaccurate or fabricated and they were just propaganda.
I have not seen or heard one example of what you just said yet.
Neither have I.
Well, here, go on Twitter or Blue Sky and look up the post from Chris D. Jackson. He talked to Jamie Harrison, the former chair of the DNC. He talked to Jake Sullivan, one of Biden's former national security advisors, and they denied the quotes that were ascribed to them in the book. The author, it was a shoddy book. I'm an author now of 2 histories, and you got to be accurate. And these guys that wrote this book, it was shoddy research, inaccurate quotes ascribed to people that now deny them. And I'd say 3, this is completely irrelevant. Nobody's going to be talking about Joe Biden in 2026. Let me give you a historical example. In 2010, the Republicans swept the midterm elections. They just annihilated the Democrats in 2010. George W. Bush in 08 was crazy unpopular. The economy collapsed. The Iraq War was a disaster, but nobody talked about George W. Bush in 2010. It was all about Obama. It was a referendum on Obama, and the Democrats got their fannies kicked. And 2026 will be a referendum on Trump and his promises. No one will be talking about Joe Biden. So this is kind of irrelevant. It's just kind of an insider parlor game in D.C. as far as I can see.
So let me just ask a question here, and then I'll give it over to Larry and then Dorsey again for you. You're telling me that it's okay with you that somebody else was calling the shots in Washington while Biden was president?
No, I think your question assumes facts and evidence. Biden was calling the shots. I think you're assuming facts, not in evidence.
Okay, if he was calling the shots, how poorly were those shots being called?
Well, he was a very good president. The unemployment rate was 4% when he left. That's the lowest unemployment rate of any.
Dennis, I'm not interested in statistics, okay? Please, on this conversation, I'm interested in the fact that the Democratic Party hid it from the American people that we had an incompetent president.
He was not an incompetent president. That's just an erroneous assumption.
Okay.
So I don't accept the premise of your comment with all due respect.
Okay. No, that's fine. We'll just have to allow more books to come out, and he'll have to do more interviews showing that he isn't competent to even give an interview, even to somebody who is on, quote, his side, like from ABC News. I don't think this is going to play out very well. I think it's going to be around. I think it's the same thing as January 6th. That happened 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and we're still talking about it, and we're still putting people in jail and now having to let them out. This is as serious as January 6th, if not more serious, because January 6th happened in one day, and this happened, the incompetency of Joe Biden as president happened for 4 years. All right, Larry, what's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, with everything coming out, there's no question. It's simply not refutable. Books coming out, staff coming out. The Wall Street Journal, who I know Dennis alleges is pro-right, and maybe, but I've also seen a lot of negatives about the President Trump coming from that same journal. The House report says that they concealed President Biden's cognitive decline since 2021. That's probably when he started slipping the most or the most visibly. They limited his public appearances and rescheduled meetings based on his cognitive state. holding the fewest press conferences of any modern president. He faced scrutiny after gaffes and a poor debate performance, with staff managing a strict 6-hour functional window. They claim that the aides concealed Biden's cognitive decline, and lawmakers and donors said Biden's public appearances were minimized and his schedule adjusted after verbal missteps after or during major events. So they said he had a typical ability to function reasonably with a 6-hour window, typically ending by 4 p.m. Now, you can say he wasn't inept as a president, but a president is on duty 24/7. And if he wakes up in the middle of the night and has to make decisions regarding national security, I don't think during much of his presidency he was capable of doing that, of the lucidity it would take to make those decisions. And that's where I have the real heartache. We don't know really who was running the administration. We know that staff members were making a lot of decisions for him. We know that the auto pen was used in many documents. Joe may not even have been aware of them, much less the decisions that they made during that time using his signature. So if I were a Democrat, I'd be pretty tweaked, because they lied to their base as well. They lied to the Democrats as well about his cognitive decline. And, I think that might have been part of the problem, that people saw this in the end and said, you know what, we've been lied to. And here's what we're going to do about it. And Trump got elected because of it. There were 10 million fewer votes in 2024 than there were in 2020. I don't know where those 10 million people went or came from, but there were 10 million disaffected voters that either didn't vote or changed their vote to Trump.
All right, Dorsey.
Okay, so Dennis, be kind enough to send me the name of that gentleman on the YouTube. I would like to investigate that, if you don't mind.
It's Twitter and Blue Sky.
Okay, but I don't remember his name.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. It's Chris,
Jackson.
middle initial D Jackson. I'll send you a message.
Yeah, Chris D.
And of course, I put Anderson, right?
Yeah.
That's why I
Chris
asked.
D, middle initial Jackson. He's a friend of the Biden family. I'll just put it out there just in fairness. But he's talked to some of these people. And he says a lot of what they said was just not accurate.
Okay, so as a person who has been caring for people with Alzheimer and dementia since 2015.
Your parents.
Yes, my parents. I am their medical and financial POA. I can absolutely tell you with certainty exactly how they got away with this. So there's phases with this particular disease where everybody seems to be A-okay. You start to see where they can't pronounce words correctly, or they can't string thoughts together, or whatever the case may be. And they actually have medication that they can prescribe to put them back on track. Okay? They still decline, but they don't decline as fast or as badly with this medication. My parents happened to be on this medication. My mother was actually physically attacking me before they put her on this medication. It calmed her down. It didn't necessarily make her symptoms any better, but she wasn't so scattered. Now, my point of this is that everyone that I have heard on both sides of the aisle that who have said that he has been great and on top of his game and so on and so forth has been in a particular window. It's never really been in the sundowning phase of the day, which usually starts at anywhere from 3 p.m. until 9 p.m., where they really absolutely lose focus on everything and need to go to sleep or whatever it is. And they had very limited access to him. I remember hearing on both sides of the aisle that everybody was complaining about how they would set up meetings and he couldn't come. He didn't show. He had something else going on. I mean, he ran his entire campaign from the basement of his home, where only certain people had access to him. And in my personal opinion, when that doctor came out and said that they weren't going to prosecute him because he was just a person who was confused and elderly, that should have been the bell for everybody. And another thing I personally feel is all of the irritation and friction that we have between our parties that didn't exist before. I personally believe that the media is responsible for this because of the fact that they said to people who were noticing this that we were on drugs, we were imagining it, and they were punishing us with our livelihoods if we went against their narrative. So you're basically sitting in a situation where you're dealing with people who are basically gaslighting you. And when you get to a point of where you know, and people are looking you in the face and telling you, no, that's not what you see, it starts to build a divide where you just say, well, you know what? I understand that this is the way you feel about it, but this is what I see. And I'm not buying into this because of the fact that you feel that I should. And then on top of it, if I don't do what you feel is appropriate, you're going to take my stuff. And I really believe that's what started this whole misbehaving on both sides on dealing with politics.
Dennis, I would like to give you another chance to jump in if you want to on this. Otherwise, I want to make this a priority for next week's show, and everybody in this listening, everybody that's on the show, let's all do some homework and let's make this a topic of conversation next week.
Okay.
But Dennis, I want to give you an opportunity to slide in here.
I'll just make a couple points. Dorsey talked about some doctor. No, it was Robert Hur, an attorney who interviewed Biden regarding some snafu regarding intelligence documents. Robert Hur is an attorney. He's not a doctor.
I apologize. I misspoke.
That's all right. No worries. But Robert Hur is he served in the first Trump administration. He's a member of the Federalist Society. He had a partisan axe to grind. Once they released a transcript of the deposition, Biden did a pretty good job in answering his questions. And let me tell you about the media and Biden's aging mental acuity issue. I have looked at CNN, the New York Times, and the Washington Post every day since the late 1990s, so I'm pretty familiar with the alleged mainstream media, liberal media does. And I can just tell you that the Washington Post, New York Times, and CNN was absolutely obsessed with Biden's age and mental acuity in 2023 and 2024. They ran numerous articles and analysis pieces about it, and they ran far more articles about Biden's age than they did about Trump's age and Trump's mental acuity. So to say the mainstream press allegedly covered it up is just not what happened. And the bottom line is the whole thing's irrelevant. I mean, nobody's going to care about Joe Biden in the fall of 2026. I suppose hardcore Republicans will care about it, but swing voters have moved on. Biden's in the rearview mirror. It's all about Trump's promises of an immediate economic boom, price cuts beginning on day one, whether or not he's kept those promises. That'll be the issue next year.
Now, wouldn't you agree, though, Dennis? Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm seeing a lot of the left now questioning Trump's cognitive and Trump's ability to think through things.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too.
That's just so much malarkey.
It's not malarkey at all. I've seen some transcripts of some statements he's made. He's crazy. He's just all over the lot. He says a lot of he had some bizarre riff about groceries the other day in the Middle East that just made absolutely no sense. So there's some serious concerns about, I think, Trump's mental acuity that need to be raised. I mean, he's almost 79 years old. He's no spring chicken.
All right. Well, let's all come to the table next week by, that rant you had on groceries that you said he did. Let's listen to it.
Okay.
Okay. These things that we're both of us, all of us here, are surmising has got to be backed up with actions. It's got to. You guys know me well enough to know that when somebody says a White House source said, that means nothing to me.
I agree.
That means somebody's lying.
Or they're just and I just want to say one last thing before we go on this, Dennis. I agree with you on the fact that Biden is old news and we should just go on with life. My point of this conversation is that how we got here to where we're even in a position of having to deal with this is the mainstream media's fault. And my attitude is, and I'm don't want to speak for the Republicans, but I know in my circle of friends, we don't trust mainstream media. I don't. I go in and I listen and I make notes because of the show and other things and what I use as my news sources. And the fact that those folks could look us in the face and tell us stuff that was inherently not true, flat out. And now they're coming out and saying, yeah, we missed it, or we should have been on it more, or we should have asked questions that would have exposed his true health, and we didn't do it. We dropped the ball. I mean, they said that at the press dinner over and over and over. So that's what we struggle with.
Yeah,
so.
let's just let's do the best we can, especially on our Point Counterpoint Omaha chat on Facebook. It's a group. You, as a listener, you are welcome to come in there and chime in. As it is in this show, we're nice to each other. We don't call each other names, and we need to maintain that as much as we can. But one of my points moving forward is going to be, if you're telling me somebody said something, I want to see it.
That's what I asked for the bill.
Yeah. I want to hear, and with AI sneaking in,
right,
it's even going to be less likely.
Right.
But if he went off on some rant, Dennis, that you compared to what Biden did when he went off on a rant, we all saw Biden's. I'd like to see that tape or hear that tape of Mr. Trump going off on the grocery thing.
Me too.
And whatever we've got. All right, kids, a little longer today, but I thank you for your time and effort. I'm very proud to be a part of this program, and thank you for all the work you guys do. And most important, thanks for treating everybody on this show like family. We continue, after coming up on a year now, we continue to still be able to talk about these things and shake hands and talk about how the grandkids are afterwards. So Larry and Dennis on the phone, Dorsey in studio. I'm Mac McCoy, if I haven't told you lately. Thank you very much for listening to Point Counterpoint Omaha. You'll find it anywhere on Facebook. You'll find it on social media, and you'll also find it on YouTube. And we want to thank Divine Truth Christian Store as our worldwide sponsor, and we appreciate you listening to Point Counterpoint Omaha.